welcome to today's video where I will be taking you through my single eyeshadow collection and doing a little bit of a declutter. I'm not going to be doing anything extreme. I'm not going to be getting rid of like half of the collection or anything like that. I do have a lot of single eyeshadows because I do a lot of swatch comparisons. So I do have to keep a lot of these single eyeshadows around for the purpose of that. I also like to do some BYOPs here and there, and I really hope to do more in 2024. And full disclosure, I was gifted some of these and I also purchased some of these as well. I've been buying single eyeshadows for many years, and I was purchasing eyeshadows from a lot of these brands before they started sending me PR. First up is this empty pan from Devinah Cosmetics. They did start selling these in 2023, which I was very excited to see because they do hold, I believe it's 40 shadows per the description on the website. And I have a lot of Devinah shadows. I actually just bought another one of these to store my mattes in because I have a bit of a matte collection from Devinah as well. So up here are the Devinah iridescent multi-chromes, and then in the center are the like really metal neutral shades, and then here are actually my Terra Moons iridescent multi-chrome. So I kind of thought I would just group them a little bit together because I'm out of space for the rest of my Terra Moons eyeshadows. And then here are some Sugar Drizzle single eyeshadows as well. And then I do have, I think this is miscellaneous shade from Tracy's Powder Room Shining Stars. It's really beautiful. Lower the light a little bit so hopefully we'll be able to see. But this one is stunning, but I don't feel like I really hear anything about the brand anymore. And I don't have people asking for comparisons with them. So I think I'm going to be letting this one go. And then the rest is staying right where it is. Next up is more Devinah shadows. And these are some pastel shades as well as some darker shades as well. This bottom row with the exception of this shade in here. These are the Galaxy Dust Shifters. And I actually just purchased a new set of these during their New Year's sale because it is such an affordable, amazing option. And mine are at this point probably like 4 or 5 years old. Actually, not even sure. They're very old. I bought them right when they launched. So I wanted to get a fresh batch. Not that these don't still like look absolutely amazing, but I did want to just be swatching the new. And I do want to do an updated video with the Galaxy Dust Shifters and just feature them and swatch them. I feel like I've come a long way with the quality of my content, so I do want to update certain things throughout 2024 and just come back to certain collections so that you can use them as reference, because some videos were done literally, like I said, 3, 4, 5 years ago. So here are a couple of palettes. This is an actual like full palette, even though the pans are removable, but it is like a color story that they curated and are selling as a palette. This is the Fantasia palette, and I do have a dedicated video on that one. I have a dedicated video on majority of things I have from Devinah, and this is the Sea of Shadows. These I think in between each other are a little bit switched out though, but these shimmers are just so beautiful. Actually, this one I think belongs in one of the larger empty pans, but that's more Devinah. And then here are the mattes I have from Devinah and this D palette. So I am starting to run out of room, so that's why I got the new empty palette. Here's the Lost Library mini palette from Fantasy Cosmetica. These were all limited edition, I believe, and I do have a dedicated video on these. These are holographic, though I feel like the holographic effect in these is maybe not as strong as some other shades I have. Like in this lighting, it's a little bit harder to see, but these are really beautiful and I very much enjoy them. Obviously, keeping are my single eyeshadows. These two are from Dualism Beauty. These are removable pans. I do also have their single pan eyeshadows, which I again have a dedicated video on all of these, but I'm planning on trying to depot these so I can put them in an empty palette. So there's 2 of these that they launched afterwards, and then so these are all Bella Beaute bar. These are like their holiday holochromes, and then some other I think these launched for like Halloween. So beautiful. And then also here are Ensley Rain single eyeshadows here, and they are so underrated. I mean, these are just so silky smooth. I mean, look at that. They're so beautiful and so shifty. So I'm keeping all of these, but I will probably reorganize them at some point. So next, on to Touch of Glam Beauty. These I had in a different palette previously. These are all the holographic eyeshadows. I'm planning on doing swatches of these and like labeling them so you can use them as a reference. And majority of these were sent to me, but I did buy some of the newer shades that launched during their launch of their website. They finally have a website now, which is awesome. And then here are 3 circle pans from Clionadh, as well as this Tom Ford Depotted. It was like a gel, and then on the top it had like a topper like shade. It's pretty dry, but it's kind of like very gently sparkly. So that's in here for now because I'm going to be swatching these, and once I swatch them, they're going to be rehomed and reorganized. So these are the rest of my Touch of Glam Beauty shades. Here are the Color Me Multis. I have both the set 1 and 2, and then there's a bunch of miscellaneous other shades in here. This is one of the newer shades I bought during their launch of the website again, so I haven't even swatched that one. And then here's the rest of the Color Me Multis. I did repan some of them into round pans, which I kind of honestly wish I left them in the square pans because I think together they would have looked really cool. And I did declutter these last year a little bit, so I got rid of some of the greens and the purples that looked very similar, but I do still feel like I kind of have a bit of that. But I do think that they're I forget what it was called. It was the collection that has just like numbered names. These are just so silky, stunning, smooth, really bright as well. Really nice kinds of shades, and I have dedicated video on this with swatch comparisons. So here's all the Dualism Beauty holographic kind of shifty duochrome shades. I think these are removable. I will just have to kind of see what's the best way to do it, but I do think that they actually sell these now without compacts, so you can buy them as singles. But at the time I bought these, they were not available like that. But these are essentially iridescent multi-chrome shades or shifty shades that have a hollow effect to them. I think the hollow in here is very fine, and it's not as easy to see in all lighting, but regardless, these are just so beautiful and really fun to play with. Next up is what's left of my Odin's Eye singles. I have decluttered them, and then I brought them back, and then I decluttered like the rest of these, and I was going to use them for some swatch comparisons here and there, but honestly, I don't really feel like it's worth it. And just looking at these, I don't know, I feel like I could probably declutter a couple of these, like the blues, for example. I just don't really see myself using those, but then it's going to bother me that this whole palette is not full. So I think I'm going to keep it for now for the next round, but I definitely think some of these shades I could declutter. There's a couple of these shades, like these two, that I really like, that I feel like are kind of stand out special. This one too, this one. And this one as well, very pretty. They have like a little bit of a duochrome, almost multi-chrome effect, but not quite multi-chrome. And then here are the multi-chromes all together. These are just so subpar, honestly. I don't even know if I should keep them. I kind of feel like because Odin's Eye is quite a bit of a heavily covered brand that I want to keep them. However, these are not very shiny at all. I feel like they look shinier on camera than they really are, honestly. These are just okay. I would not recommend these. For the price, I would definitely recommend some other indie brands. There's a couple of shades that were very squishy, which were these three right here. So as you can see, they're kind of like, so they're very smooth. Same with Leon. Now I think this is the newer Leon, and I repressed the previous Leon into a round pan. You'll see that later. Same with Ingrid. I ended up buying a second version to see if the restock was a new batch, if they fixed anything or if there was anything different, and I do have a dedicated video on that comparison if you're interested. Next up are all of my Burnovich matte shadows. These are such a stunning formula. I do think the neutral mattes are a little bit better than the colorful mattes. Some of the colorful mattes, specifically like the blue and this purple, are a little bit harder to work with, but it is a beautiful formula. I'm keeping these because I love the formula, and also for some BYOP options. And then this is a huge palette full of Terra Moon's matte eyeshadows. I have a little bit of a casualty. I'm going to have to clean that up. I did recently depot their, I forget what's called, Cosmic something palette that had mattes in it. So I depotted those in here so I can use them and pull them for BYOPs. I don't love the Terra Moon's matte formula. I find it to be a little bit thinner and not as easy to use for me personally, and what kind of matte formula I like to use. I'm actually going to declutter this shade right here. This is Gravity. I believe this is from the palette, and it's just got sparkles in it, and I have no use for those kinds of matte shadows, but I'm going to keep the rest of these for BYOPs. There's some really nice tone options, as well as the fact that there's some pastels and neons. Next up is my empty palette that has lots of my black-based multi-chromes. There's Shellwe up here, Touch of Glam Beauty, Devinah. There's some shades from Menagerie Cosmetics and from Terra Moon's, and this is where I think I can declutter some, because I really only use these with swatch comparisons, and I just feel like there's so many of these shades that look the same that have been launched over and over and over and over again. And I have so many comparison videos with these black base multichromes at this point that I just don't think that there's a point in me keeping them, because this really just sits around. I don't really reach for these. So I have these. There's also some other black base multichromes I have from ShineBySD that are not in here, as well as obviously the jewel multichromes from Clionadh that are in the Clionadh empty palettes. So I think I'm gonna declutter the black base shades I have from Terra Moons. These are pretty old and I feel like they're not really that great. I'm gonna keep Jupiter's Inferno because I have had people ask for comparisons with those, but the rest of these, Looking Glass, Mirage, Alter Ego, I don't feel like I need these. I'm gonna keep Blood Moon. I feel like that one might be important to keep around, but these three I definitely think that I can declutter. They're also kind of hard panning a little bit, so they're harder to swatch and they're just not the same. There's also Space Drifter and Head Rush. I think Head Rush was another one that I think I could declutter, and I'm gonna keep Space Drifter around a little bit longer. I also think I'm gonna keep Ember from Menagerie, and then here's another Centauri. I'm gonna keep these, but the other ones that are like specifically marketed as the like extreme black base multichromes, I'm going to be getting rid of. So then also I'm gonna keep Arc, Menagerie Cosmetics, and then Ember from Menagerie Cosmetics, and then I'm gonna keep, oh, there's also one more, Biome from Menagerie Cosmetics, and then I'm gonna keep all of the Australis black base multichromes from Devinah, and then I'm going to get rid of all of the black base shades from Touch of Glam Beauty. I'm not even sure if they sell these anymore, but honestly I feel like there's just so many of these shades that exist at this point. So I'm gonna be decluttering all of these. There's another one. I feel like they had some of these shades kind of twice, but they were just named differently. And then I'm going to keep all of these Shellwe shades because some of these are a little bit more unique. And also, not all of them are really truly black base. Some of them have a little bit of a sheerer kind of base, kind of like the Jeweled Lights from Clionadh. So I think this is where I'm going to keep it. And I'm probably going to add some other shades, maybe from ShineBySD once we get to that. Lethal Cosmetics matte eyeshadows. At some point I had all of the matte single eyeshadows. I love their formula so much, so I'm definitely keeping these. Kind of wish they were in round pans, but it's okay. Love the matte formula so much, so definitely keeping these. Best Mattes collaboration palette between Ellie and Brittany and Bella Beaute Bar. This is such a great palette. So this is technically a palette, but the eyeshadows are removable, so I am keeping this with my single, so I make sure to remember that I can pull all of these mattes for BYOPs. Next up, I have all of my Luxie shadows. I did do a video with one of their like more kind of semi-recent. I think like at this point they've probably had 2 more launches. I did purchase from them again in 2023 to kind of give them a second chance and revisit, and I definitely feel like my feelings were same in terms of their swatches are just wildly inaccurate on their website, and there's nothing like wrong with the shades and the way they look in person, because I love a little bit more of a sheer kind of eyeshadow, but also some of these shades look a little bit too similar. I feel like they're getting a little bit redundant, and also there's a few different kinds of finishes. So like I feel like they have some really nice shades for $3. Like you cannot go wrong in terms of just dipping your toes in some of these super shiny, beautiful shades. That being said, you might have some creasing issues with some of them, specifically kind of the more sparkly types of shades. They do have a little bit of a creamier kind of formula, so you might have to be careful with those. But there are some nicer shades that are more satin-like. There are on the a little bit more of like a standard, almost satin-like finish, so they're not really creasy. So I feel like this is a great option if you're balling on a budget and you want to dip your toes into some beautiful topper-like shades, but just don't take their swatches on their website seriously. These are Lethal Cosmetics shimmer shades. So these are kind of more pastel, bright, beautiful. These look stunning on the lids for sure. And then these are kind of just metal, so kind of thing, similar vibes, but a little bit more textured than the Terra Moons shades that are kind of like this. They have very smooth formula. These are just a little bit more on the flaky side, but they do smooth out. And then also the Devinah shades. And I did do a dedicated video on these and I showed you comparisons. I think Lethal Cosmetics is such an amazing EU-based company. They are based out of Germany and they have just such beautiful quality eyeshadows. Their shimmer shadows have come a long way and they do offer quite a few different textures now, so depending on what you like. Next up, these are actually Terra highlighters, but I cannot use these on my skin tone. They do not work for me. These are really stunning as eyeshadows as well. Obviously, they're a larger pan. I'm actually thinking of depotting these into smaller 26mm pans and just adding them into my like lineup of Terra singles. But this shade is very sparkly, and then some of these are a little bit more satin-like, and then these are a little bit like they're between this one and a satin-like shade, and they are just beautiful shades for layering. I mean, look at this one right here, so stunning. And then this one's a little bit more metallic. Look at that, so beautiful. So I'm keeping these for sure. So here's a mixture of some Gimme Glow shadows and then also some Clarity Cosmetics Mermazing palette shadows. I depotted that palette. I hated the mattes in that. That was a few years ago, and I've been decluttering and undecluttering this empty palette with these shades off and on. And I did see that Gimme Glow is actually going to be launching smaller pans, which I'm very excited about. So I'm thinking of kind of separating these into smaller pans as well. But I think I am going to keep these because they are just so sparkly and very shifty, and they have a little bit of that like PC texture that I really enjoy. Next up, these obviously do not belong in here because they are round pans. This is a Lethal Cosmetics empty palette, but these two are from It's Belle. I love these shades so much. They're stunning. And then these two, I believe they're from Tracy's Powder Room. They're really beautiful iridescent multi-chromes. Let me just swatch. Look at that. It is even better in person, honestly. And then this one kind of broke a little bit. So beautiful. But again, I don't really hear much about this brand. I think I'm going to be decluttering them. They did send these to me like at least a few years ago at this point. And then as for It's Belle, I feel like I don't really hear much going on with them. So I'm going to take these out and I'm going to keep them with my singles, but I'm going to be putting them in a different empty palette so that I can free this up for some actual lethal shadows. This is a messy empty palette. I've had quite a few casualties in this empty palette, unfortunately, specifically being Lethal Cosmetics, and I definitely think I could declutter quite a few of these. So I'm going to be decluttering the black base multi-chromes because these are, one, they're kind of hard panning. I think you can kind of see it. And also, they're just not really that shiny. They're always really hard to get a good swatch, and this one especially is very satin-like, so I'm going to declutter all of those shades for sure. These were kind of their first go at multi-chromes, so I feel like they've improved a lot since these for sure. These just do not hold up to a lot of the other black base multi-chromes I have from other brands, so I'm gonna be decluttering these. And then there's a couple of other shades that I'm not like the biggest fan of. I love this color, however, again, it's hard panning. Actually, I'm going to keep this one. It's really pretty, but it is hard panning a little bit. It's more of a satin shade. It has a lot of potential for layerability. And then this shade, it's really stunning, but honestly, okay, I think I'll keep this one as well, but this one for sure, I'm going to swatch it, I'm going to keep watch. But this one is called Genesis, and this is just so satin and very like hard panning, so I'm just going to get rid of that one. And then I'm left with some of these more sparkly shades. So here is Parsec and Singularity. I believe these came out after this initial batch, so that's why they're a bit more shiny for sure. And then there's some iridescent shades which are nice, but they are a little bit crumbly, so I'm actually gonna have to probably repress this one again. These iridescent shades into the empty palettes. Then I have all the lethal iridescents kind of together in here, which I think is nice. And then I'm gonna clean out this palette, and this is the shade Retrograde, and it's essentially kind of a little bit like Big Bang from Terra Moons or Verte from Clionadh, but definitely way more subtle. But it's a little bit on the sheer side. It's really beautiful, actually. But I feel like I have this shade so many times over, and it is kind of breaking. It just looks so pretty in the pan. I'm going to put that one as a maybe. And then the rest of these, so these two are the shades I talked about earlier, which are just some repanned Odin's Eye shades. I'm going to keep these. I just need to really clean out this palette. And then the rest of these are, I believe, Glam Shop and Bernovich, or just Bernovich. Okay, these are just Bernovich. And I think I'm going to be decluttering a few of these. I think there's some shades that I don't really see myself using, while this one is stunning. I don't remember the last time I used this one. And then this one, ooh, so pretty. I really feel like these are so amazing, especially again if you're EU based. but I just don't really reach for these for no like particular reason. Look at that. That is so stunning. Really beautiful too. And these are pretty affordable from what I remember. And then this one is such a pretty one too. I think I'm going to keep the rest of these because they're predominantly neutral and I have to clean this out. But the other shades are going. Next up are more Shellwe single eyeshadows. This was a spring launch, I believe. And I love all of these. I'm keeping all of them. Next up, I am finally trying Pretties for Your Face. And these are the shades I picked out during the Black Friday sale. Unfortunately, my palette with these dropped and a lot of them shattered. So that's why some of them are looking a little bit wonky because I did try my best to compile them back into their respective pans. So you can see a couple of different like shades going on in here. And it's just because I must have gotten some other colors from the other pans in there. But look at that. So beautiful. Also, I can't believe this shade right here. Very fragile, but it's $5. It's so stunning. So I'm very excited to try these out and feature them on my channel in the future. As you can see already, there's some different kind of variations of formulas, which I love that. So this one's more like a grungy, super satin shade. So is that one, this one, though it looks so unreal in person. There's just something really cool about the way it shifts, very duochromatic. This is the Not Your Basic Batch palette. Now, obviously, this is an eyeshadow palette, but I consider these single eyeshadows, so that's why they are with my single eyeshadows. I do think that they have this available, and I'm not sure if they have it available as a palette because I know the palette was pretty expensive, but I think they might have these as singles now. These are really beautiful. I think they're a little bit redundant in the palette for sure, but there are some stunning shades, and this is their really nice, super smooth metallic formula. I think a couple of them are a little bit flaky, but look at how beautiful and metallic and shifty these are. So I'm going to be keeping that around. Next up are all of my ShineBySD single eyeshadows. This is the most recent collaboration between Smitha and ShineBySD, the Forest Hues and Mystic Dreams. I have a dedicated video on this. So beautiful. Love the 4 iridescent shades here that are really great topper-like shades. Then I have this empty palette. I do want to kind of compile these and really only have 2 palettes. So this one has quite a few different things going on. So these right here are depotted shades from the As Above, So Below, the very first collab between Ms. Revolta, M. Jones, and ShineBySD. And these are not available anymore. They don't sell them. I'm going to be taking these out of my main collection and putting them aside as I'm not going to be pulling these for comparison. So I'm not decluttering them. I'm just putting them aside to make room for other shades. And then these are the Seeking Shifts and ShineBySD collab shades. So keeping those in here. And then there's also all of these shades that I bought. I have the Dynasty collection, I have the Fantasy collection, and then I have some like miscellaneous random shades here and there, which are in this empty palette, which I really want to reorganize, but I wanted to first film the declutter before reorganizing. So these 6 shades are part of their Treasure Troves bundle, and these are amazing. They're so sparkly and so beautiful, and the bundle is I think only like $38 or something like that. They're just so affordable. And then again, some of these are Dynasty shades, and they have so many beautiful purple shades. I kind of want to order them by color versus by collection. And then they did send me these Jeweled Dreams shades. They had, I believe, they launched with like 25 or something like that. And they sent me this bunch. And again, these are kind of a little bit more black based. Not all of them are fully black based, but let me just actually swatch some of these because I think these are very smooth and very metallic. Really beautiful. If I was to recommend any black based multichromes, then I would say for sure Clionadh, Devinah, or these. And then also the Shellwe, but the Shellwe, like I said, are not fully black based. So I feel like some of these I might just have to let them go because like I said, I have too many. Oh, they're so shiny though. I feel like these are maybe even shinier than the Devinah shades. Maybe I'll keep, I think some of them are a little bit redundant though. Like maybe like one of these. I don't really feel like I need, I don't know. I don't know if I can part with these. Oh my god, I'm not doing a very good job. I think I'm going to keep these around just a little bit longer. Basically is what we've come to. And then I have this empty palette, which these are all separate, especially for the reason not only do they not fit, but also these are the new shades I bought during their Black Friday sale. So I'm very excited, especially for this shade, a really nice kind of neutral shadow, and then some more topper-like shades as well. So I'm very excited to dip into these. Here's the Deep Sea Treasures palette from Clionadh. Now, It is an eyeshadow palette. The pans are removable, and I keep this palette with my singles for sure. I use them for reference, for swatch comparisons a lot especially, but these are such beautiful shades. I love that they came out with an all shimmer palette this year. Next up, some more shades that I actually picked up from Glam Cosmetics, and I do also have their like winter quad. I just don't know where it is. Oh, I actually see it right there, but it's their little fall themed quad. So these are the Glimmering Creatures 1 and 2, as well as some other miscellaneous. I believe these 3 shades don't belong with the Glimmering Creatures, and those are right here. So I did purchase these, and I have not yet done any content with them because I do want to take pictures of them and do swatches of them, and then eventually videos. More ShineBySD. This was their I forget what this collection is called. Actually, it might be on the back. This is the Eternal collection. So these are the 4 shades I was able to pick up during the launch of these. And then there was 1 or 2 other shades that were unfortunately out of stock that I sold out super, super fast that I didn't get until that order that I just showed you for Black Friday. So these are those. These are so, so stunning. These are just beautiful. I love that they added these to their lineup of products. So I need to add these in with the rest of my ShineBySD shades. Next up are all of my Clionadh multi-chromes. Here is this set. I just have them grouped by collection. So here are all the iridescent shades. I didn't group these by specifically which iridescent shade. And then these are the Earth Vibrance, the Pearlescent, the Electric, and then just some overflowing other 2 shades. And then what does this one have? This one has the Dimensionals, the Vibrance, Pastels, and Glitter. I think some other overflowing ones as well. And then the Black Base Jewel Multichromes, the Jewel Lights, and then these are Hybrid, and these are Deep Iridescent. So those are all of those. And then I also have some of these in here as well. I just built this custom palette for the new year, and I posted it on my Instagram story if you want to see some swatches. This does include 2 of their new shades, so Orchard, and I believe there's 1 other shade. I believe it was this one right here. The name is escaping me right now, but I love this little custom color story. Definitely stay tuned. I do want to do quite a bit more of these. Oh my god, look at that shift. Look. And these are some of the new shades that just launched that they have added permanently to the Stained Glass Collection lineup, including this shade, which was previously named Will-O-the-Wisp, and it is now called Myrrh. And I do have dedicated video with comparisons as well as 5 looks that I just posted, the 5 looks video. So these are Glam Shop matte eyeshadows. I have decluttered and undecluttered these at least 2 or 3 times because I don't love the formula. They're a very thin kind of formula that I find a little bit harder to blend, but I love some of the tones in here, particularly this one, this one, and this one, and this one, and I mean this one too was really nice. So I'm just on the fence of keeping this for BYOP, but I think I might just keep them just like with the Terra Moons. While I don't love that formula, I like keeping it for BYOPs, but I do want to add this into another empty palette because this one I feel like these might be a little too fragile for that. Next up are Terra Moons shades. These are all very kind of satin-like. Some of them are not multi-chromes as well. And so I'm just keeping these in this palette separate from the multi-chrome so that when I'm pulling for swatch comparisons, I don't have to also sort through these shades. This one is from Tracy's Powder Room Lost Lavender. I just love this very taupey kind of satin-like metallic shade. It is so beautiful. I want to layer something over it, so that's why I'm keeping that one. And then these 2 are actually from ColourPop. One of them is Glass Bull, and then I forget what the other shade is, but I have bought these recently to keep as reference for any swatch comparisons with, like, you know, a little bit more of a mainstream kind of brand. And then this is one Lonely Sugar Pill eyeshadow. Here are the rest of my Terra Moons shadows. So here's these because they didn't fit in the other empty palettes, but I do have these predominantly by color. So those are the yellows and the reds and the pinks, and then these are the greens and some blues. And then this giant palette has all the purples with some of the more grungy kind of shades at the bottom. So these are all of my Terra Moons. And then last up are my Glam Shop, and some of these are Glam Cosmetics. So I feel like I think I'm going to get rid of some of these for sure. So specifically the shade Acrylic Ice. While it's beautiful, I don't really see myself reaching for that one, so I think I'm gonna declutter that one from here specifically. And then this one's a really interesting kind of tone. I might actually keep that one. And then I think this one right here, Bora Bora, I don't really see myself using that one too much. So going to kind of move these up a little bit. These are all their holographic eyeshadows. Now, I want to do a video on holographic eyeshadows and just kind of swatching them, talking about the different formulas, etc. So I'm going to be keeping these for that video. But after that video, I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm going to be decluttering majority of these. I think I'm only going to keep this one, which is the original, one of the original holographic eyeshadows they sold, which is Bayer Hollow. And then I don't know if I'm going to keep Effect Hollow, or some of these other shades are kind of interesting as well. So I'm not really sure. And then these shades, oh my gosh, we have seen so many brands launch these kinds of shades. I do think Glam Shop's price point is really, really great, especially if you're EU based. So highly recommend checking out Glam Shop for sure. And then on the bottom here are my Glam Matrix Cosmetics. I do have these for comparison reasons at this point, so I'm going to keep these around. So these are all the shades I decluttered, you know, not a lot in the grand scheme of things, but I think pretty good for now. I do think there's some shades for sure that I could probably narrow down, and I am going to revisit in probably another like 3 to 6 months or something, like specifically some of my other black based multichromes that I feel like, okay, maybe it's been 6 months, do I really need to keep them for further comparative reasons, or are we kind of like all set with the black based multichromes? So I have decluttered 27, and there's probably going to be at least 5 more from Glam Shop, so you know, just a little bit more breathing room. But like I said, I didn't really want to declutter like a huge amount because I do swatch comparisons, so I have to keep a lot of the shades around, even if they're not particularly some shades that I reach for, specifically some of the darker kinds of multichrome shades or duochrome shades. If I didn't do comparisons on my channel, I definitely think my collection would be a bit smaller. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't be keeping around this many single eyeshadows, which probably, I know that at some point I counted, I think this was like 2 years ago, and it was 600, so I can only imagine that I have at least 900 at this point. So that's it for the single eyeshadow declutter of 2023, even though this is going up in 2024. Unfortunately, did not get it up in time, but definitely expect another sort of video like this at the end of 2024. And that's everything for this video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you next time.